Hello YouTube. The sun has returned. It was a very frosty night, actually sub-zero again. You can just see a little bit of white dusting on the peaks there. The village I live in is 400 meters, and above 500 we had some snow over the last couple of days. Which wasn't nice for the little flowers on the fruit trees and the bees and everything. But the good news is it tends to recede rather quickly in April as winter's grip loosens. Just listening to some Mozart piano music, and of course the hydraulic digger, which is still working on that trench outside my front drive. But they're making progress. Very good crew, very efficient, I must say. I've got to admire how well they're doing the work, and still, even in these times, they're fully engaged. Take my cap off to them, gentlemen. Well, welcome to the number 3 in the series of the Wilke Tobacconist blends. And number 3 is, as some of you requested, and I wanted to do anyway, number 10 Downing Street. Had a couple of bowls yesterday. When it came, it was really bone dry, and that's not the fault of Wilke. It's because shipping to Switzerland and getting through customs can take up to 3 weeks. Then I think any pouch is going to be dried out. So it was really crispy dry. So I hydrated it with a couple of stones in here overnight. It's a reasonably good ribbon cut, you know, I would say. You can see the black Cavendish, you can see the light burleys in there, and you can see the Virginia. When you take the lid off, especially with this moisturized condition now, and for me this is just right. This looks like, so it flows, you know, it doesn't clump. If you looked at it, you'd say, oh, it's dry. But when you touch it, you sense there's a bit of moisture in there. And if the sun would get on this glass with the lid on, a bit of moisture would gather inside the glass. You can feel there's a bit of moisture there, and that for me is nearer to what I like to have, the moisture level. And it mobilizes, moisture mobilizes aromas and taste, I think. Little tiny dust particles of tobacco float on those moisture particles and transmit more of the character. And also the moisture droplet can absorb water-soluble aroma components, so I think it's important to have some moisture. And as soon as I took the lid off, you know, I was greeted by just a gentle waft of smokiness. Now, if you actually look on the website of Wilke, this one is listed as having burley, flake Virginia, perique and latakia, and on tobaccoreviews.com they missed the latakia, but the reviewer, there's only one reviewer here, did say this has some Cyprian latakia in it, and you just get a very sort of nice waft of that, a little, it's in the background more, I think. I'll probably have to relight now. That's my Ceromi silver lighter. You've seen that before. Very nice, Japanese of course, you know. And the tamper today is the one that's coming, I think it's from a drawer. And my good friend there in Slovenia has attached it and made a nice tamper out of it. Lovely. Well, what I noticed yesterday is, you know, dry as it was, I was really struggling because it burned through a bowl in no time, and I just wasn't picking up what I knew I should be. And now it's much better. Very gentle, very mild flavours. So I had a bowl of this in this condition earlier this morning. There's a very gentle sweetness to it, a very gentle nut, that's the burley, and a little bit of wood and earth, which I think is the latakia with the smoky nuance, but very subtle. Excellent beginners if you're starting and you want to have sort of a one variation of an English blend. Very nice. And around the edges of it there's some little bit of very mild spice, you know, but which is the perique, but it's like lace work, you know. It's very delicately done, this one. And for those probably out there who have better, more sophisticated palates, I think you'll like this one, picking those flavours out. If you've got a sensitive palate and you find flavour very easy to find and even sometimes overpowering, this is one of great delicacy. It sort of the first 10%, if you've got a filter, it's going to be weak because the filter takes a while to sort of fill up. And now, getting 15% into the bowl, the flavours are starting to strengthen, you know. But still, as I said, it's lace work. This one, it's beautiful. It's absolutely wonderful. Sweetness now is coming stronger. Low, middle, nick, you know. We won't get a buzz off this one, even after 2 or 3 bowls. I think you'll be alright. And with this moisture level I have now, I won't get a bite. Now, yesterday it was going so fast. So you can get bitten if it's too wet and too much steam, and if you don't have a filter to sort of try and absorb some of that. But you can get bitten on the dry side if the thing goes like brush fire. So finding this middle area, but I'm starting to get the feeling of what it should look like, what it should feel like, you know. Like a bit of burley in the blend because the smoke is more, and it means it's easier for you to control, you know. You don't tend to puff as hard, you get a reasonable amount of smoke, but I think also a little bit of moisture helps this cloud, you know. Easy to regulate, I find. Savinelli Prince with the X Bowl 9mm. Got this on smokingpipes.eu, European one. Have one already, got a second one because I just love it so much. So my other place in southern Switzerland, I will make sure there's one there permanently, and it's just beautiful. I love the sleekness of this design and this big bowl. It's night and day. Okay, everybody knows that, you know, if your moisture isn't right, it goes from almost unsmokable, tasteless, or painful to brilliant, you know. It's like aging your tobacco also can make such a dramatic difference. So I think you have to, whatever you do smoke, you should always give it a fair crack of the whip, try it under certain different conditions, sometimes even the pipe. And because, of course, tobacco is inhomogeneous, in other words, it's not perfectly dispersed, and you get a bit more black Cavendish, or you get a bit more burley here, or a bit more perique there, or whatever. You get little bursts for taste, which are lovely, because it's like a sort of sudden surprise. I just got a nice nut burst there, which was marvellous. So there's no black Cavendish in this. I assume the sweetness is coming more from the burley and the Virginia. It says actually flake Virginia, although it's nicely rubbed out, so didn't really see any sort of big flake chunks there. See that? Little bit of moisture coming up. Now you can argue, do I have too much in here, because I put 2 hydration stones. It was so dry yesterday and let it go overnight. But of course you can always take the top off and let a little bit evaporate and fine tune it until you think it's dead right, and then close it tight and put parafilm around it to keep it as at that moisture level as far as possible. I think the bulk density is probably quite low of this, because if that's 2 ounces, normally I would expect it to be in a sort of half-size jar compared to this. But I do think Wilke was probably nicely generous to me, so much appreciated. Put that out in the shade there. There's a little bit of woodies, and right at the end was that sweet hanging around the back of my tongue. It's just, it's glorious, you know. We have some slowly emerging good news about our war with the virus here. I think it starts to slow the infection rate, which it must do, of course. We're basically starving it. We're starving the virus of hosts, and it will, scientifically, it must have an effect, and slowly, it's slowly getting there. Of course, one is tempted to go out because, you know, like the tobacconists, the good news, are open. That's, many countries said that's a basic, you know, nutritional right, or a human requirement, a human need. And the same with the liquor stores. Just shows some politicians are actually human. It's a good thing, because you know, you've got to give people chill out possibilities, you know. Got some amazing photos in a mail from dear old Cliff Higgins about that terrible tornado. Incredible the power that a tornado has, and it went through a town. Sometimes the warmth envelope it'll skip over, but this time not. Luckily, I think very few injuries and not many or no real fatalities, but a lot of damage done. God be thanked Cliff is alright. He was in a moved house a while back again, and that wasn't touched, so it was lucky. Just burning down nicely, you know, right pace, you know, no real problem to keep it lit, unless I'm leaving it for like several minutes. Then any tobacco tends to go out on you, but this moisture level can't be far from right, I think. On building sites, they communicate by bird calls, sort of, you know, hardly words at all, just sounds, you know. I tell you, it's the same when I was growing up working on a building site, you know. Well, this was 10 Downing Street was 3. There was only one reviewer though. And yesterday I would have said, oh, I don't know how this is going to go, but as I said, I did it totally wrong. It was far too dry. And now I've got it right and had a couple bowls like this. I'm going to up it a bit. I'm going to say it's a 3.2. You know, of course, it's all personal. So, hope you enjoyed that. I'll cut it short here, I think. I've got one more to go, and the last one, number 4 from Wilke, is Crystal Palace. Surbrug's Crystal Palace on his website, and I've been researching Surbrug, where that name came from, because obviously that's woven somewhere into the history of pipe tobacco and Wilke, and we'll try to give a little bit more about why that name is used. And the Crystal Palace one has a 4 in tobacco reviews. So I have great expectations. Okie doke. Well, you all have a good Tuesday. Take care of yourself and look forward to next time very soon. Take care. Cheers.